there's a couple of reasons why. Like I said, like I used it to get what I wanted. And then it kind of developed into like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like fooling people or tricking them or getting something over on them or like when I was getting in trouble in college on the swim team, like I would be proud of these like elaborate lies. And I
Mm.
remember thinking like I told this person that, so I can't tell this person this. Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an addict alcoholic. This is episode 73.
Welcome back. I'm Andrew, alcoholic addict. They say, you know, that this podcasting is like riding a bike. I'm not so sure about that. I had to think about what I was gonna say really quick before we started. Um, yeah, dude, it's been, I don't know, what has it been, 3, 4 weeks?
I think like a month. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little while. We both had some life stuff going on. Would definitely get into that this episode, but really, really pumped to be back. And excited for this episode. Surprised we haven't covered this topic. I don't think in anything we've done so far. I mean, I think a lot of our episodes have crossed over into this topic for sure. Little bits and pieces, but I'm really excited to dedicate a whole episode just to honesty as a full on topic. I think it's included in our 12-step program, and it's not only that, but it's like a really complicated topic. Um, really weird, different definitions for me between active use and recovery, and it continues to change in recovery every day, I think. But yeah, really, really pumped to talk about this and just think about how different it is now versus back in active use. So pumped to do it. And Mitch is throwing me off today. If you guys can see him, he's got a beanie on. He's usually wearing like a regular hat, but I don't know. Maybe he cut his hair. He doesn't like his haircut. Not really sure what it is, but really excited for this one, my friend.
Yeah. Super hyped for this one too. Super hyped to be back. It's dope that it's, we can jump on whenever really, you
Mm.
know, I love that. And I feel good. I feel better already just being on. Yeah, I think also shout out to Patrick Ryan, our last episode that we did. His story and his experience is very much his, and it was like awesome to listen to and hear from him. I learned a lot from that episode. So thank you for connecting me to him and bringing him on.
Yeah, I loved having you go in blind to that
Yeah.
episode. I didn't want to tell you anything about his story. If you haven't, if people listening haven't heard that episode, I think that's, I don't know, a top three must hear that we've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And it's a great, great, compelling, s- certainly sad and heartbreaking as well, but really compelling, inspiring story. So love Pat. Shout out to him. I know he's a listener. And yeah, I love watching your facial expressions as he went through that story. It
Yeah.
was like it's uber powerful, even for me, having known him over a year, heard his story multiple times. Every time I get something else out of it. So yeah, that was great. This is a hard topic, honesty, for me. It kind of gave me a little pause to even recommend it. I think because it it still is hard for me to, like, it's hard for me to admit that honesty is still something that I struggle with.
Mhm.
Um just to go in, and I want to hear how it is for you too. Like, I think a good place to start is like what it meant in active use versus what it means now, right? And honesty was like it was almost like a luxury I couldn't afford when I was using, right? Like, I was a really great justifier of things, right? Like justification was such a strong tool that I used. I mean, we're not, by and large, like addicts and alcoholics are not, you know, dumb people. Like
Yeah.
we're pretty smart. Like, and because of that, what happens is we become clever and sneaky, right? So I'm not claiming like I'm a genius by any stretch, but I was clever and sneaky. Um, and a really kind of big part of that was dishonesty. Uh, I think that was one of the first like, like moral guidelines that we talk about that I was really okay with like breaking was definitely, I was able to be dishonest and be okay with it. And actually, I remember like as a little kid, really like kind of struggling with it because I was I had moral standards for myself, but I also knew that if I was dishonest, I could get away with a lot more. Like I had that recognition, like, yeah, if I lie or, alter the truth, distort the truth, then I'll be able to get away with stealing this candy bar or, getting 30 extra minutes on the Xbox or whatever, like, or whatever it is, or go to my friend's house, even though his parents aren't home. Like all the little lies that you tell as a kid, I realized that early, like, oh, okay, I can kind of cheat the system if I'm able to break through and be dishonest and kind of push that down and be okay with it. And I do remember like I wasn't using it yet. I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, and there was some traumatic things happening in my life, and I started to get really paranoid about like being dishonest, and I was having real trouble with guilt, and I think that's still like an association that I have is like when I was being dishonest, like I had so much guilt about it, and that would eat me alive. Um, and so it kind of came to like a head when I was in high school. Is like, do I want to be completely honest all the time? No, like because I like to do drugs and drink, but I'm also being dishonest and I'm feeling guilty about it. So how do I make that feeling of guilt disappear? Well, I have to, in order to survive, I'm going to have to justify this. And in order to numb myself and not feel these feelings of guilt, I'm going to have to get high and drunk. So I think honesty was like and really specifically dishonesty was like a really big catalyst to me being, like being justified in being, a person who used drugs and drank every day. Like I wanted to, like it was one of those first like self-loathing things.
Mhm.
Like I really didn't like this about myself that I was a liar and I had to numb it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely. I like that you brought it all the way back to the beginning because I was gonna try to do the same thing. I think I have a very similar experience to that. Like I think I I learned to lie pretty early, uh, and saw that I could like get what I wanted if I did. You know,
Hmm.
I had positive experiences. At least I thought they were positive experiences with lying. Which fast forward to a point where like bro, for like high school and early college before I got sober and unfortunately or fortunately into my early recovery, like
Oh,
lying
sure.
was like I didn't even think twice. Like you
Hmm.
talk about the guilt thing. I don't maybe I felt that a little bit when I was younger, but I was like a sociopath in terms of lying for quite a long time and only until I really got into working the 12 steps and rebuilding my moral compass and like having care for other people, and like not wanting to do any harm, that I begin to have that feeling of guilt, which really caught me off guard because I hadn't really felt guilt sober for a long time because whenever I had felt it before, I would just like hit this or take that or drink that, and the guilt's
Hmm.
gone. You know what I mean? Um, so it like I think that there's a couple of reasons why. Like I said, like I used it to get what I wanted. And then it kind of developed into like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like fooling people or tricking them or getting something over on them or like when I was getting in trouble in college on the swim team, like I would be proud of these like elaborate lies. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking like I told this person that, so I can't tell this person this. And then like I have to be really careful around this guy or this person because I told them that. And I had like like they talk about webs of lies. Like I literally had that shit. And I had to like actually think about what I was saying when I was talking to someone if I had lied to them about it before.
Right.
And that's insanity. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
yeah.
Like it's not a good place to be. And untangling that is a process too. Uh, and I think like lying is an interesting part of honesty because like it can be considered the opposite. But I think it's interesting. Like the honesty topic is massive, especially in our program because they talk about the secrets that you keep. You know, will lead you back out, which I've seen um, and heard from some even like close friends in the program.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, it's the more that I get into the program and the more that I listen and prayer and meditation and working with others and going to meetings and like trying to further my conscious contact with my higher power, it's like I can't even. I heard an OG who picked up like 40 years and he was like, if I go into the bathroom and there's a paper towel and I throw the paper towel to the trash can and it misses and hits the ground, like I can't walk out anymore, you know?
No.
I have to pick it up and put it into the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically what I'm saying is like the more and more you get into the recovery, it's like little things that start like a microscope zooms in and it's like I can't even like if someone asked me, did you take Tucker out to go to the bathroom and I didn't, and I say that I did, that doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't matter, but it does. I mean, it does hurt someone. It hurts me. You feel me? Because like it's a little lie and I'll take that and it'll go into another one, into another one, into another
Mm-hmm.
one. And I've had that experience that uh, I can't even do like the little ones anymore.
Yeah.
It's not, uh, it's not good. So I'm blessed that I moved into that position, but yeah,
No, dude. And I think you said something really important that I'm kind of forgetting and that I have like selective memory of, right? Like, and it's so crazy. I think one of the first things that I had an addiction to was that lying and getting something over on somebody, right? Like it was a rush. And I mixed up like I'm not gonna sit on my high horse and say like, oh, I was guilty about every lie and I ended up coming clean or anything. It wasn't like that. I did reach a point, right, where we get desensitized, right?
yeah,
And I got desensitized. Like I fought the urge and pushed through the guilt enough to where like I could lie and I could be okay with it. And then I wasn't thinking about the guilt. I wasn't thinking about the repercussions. And it was a game to me in a lot of ways. Like I lying about stupid things or lying to fit in. I mean, I think it really for me stems back, and we were talking about it before the call, is like there's a lot of fear wrapped up in dishonesty for me. Like I was so afraid that I wasn't going to be loved. I just wanted to be accepted. I wanted to like impress people.
yeah,
It wasn't like that I wanted everybody to think I was the man. Although I did definitely like I would embellish things to appear like I was better than I was, but I just wanted to be a part of something, right? So if there was like a group of kids and they all had a video game and they were like, "Oh, like, did you get this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I have that." Like, because I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
be. I don't even have the fucking system that they
Right.
have. Like, I don't have I don't have a clue what they're talking about. Like, of course, yeah, I've been playing that game for months. Like, whatever it came out yesterday, I'd be, I've been playing that game for weeks. Like, and and that was even though that seems like a kind of an innocent, whatever, like pure desire to just be loved by people, like it was really damaging because they're like now I'm not me. Now I'm not authentic. Now I'm like putting on a show, and then I have to put all this effort in to keep it up. Like it's so much effort to like you said, like to tell one person something, tell another person another thing, and a third person a third thing, and now I have to make sure that they are not talking,
Right.
like, and they're not gonna go, fact check me together, and I got to make sure the story's straight with all of them, and keep leading them away from the truth. And what started as this little innocent thing becomes such a, such a production. Like I've got to convince myself and convince all these other people too that it's one way when it's not. And I did that, what started, like you said, like as little lies and really seemingly trivial things, it would turn into lies about like really serious things, like life experience stuff, like things that I was going through, or like it would move into a territory that wasn't just like, what video games do you have, to it would get into like, you know, what have I done in my life? Like where have I lived, or what do I like, and what kind of person I am. Like, and now I'm lying about things that are like core principles to me. And I don't know about you, but that was really, and this is even still before like drugs and alcohol. It was with drugs and alcohol too, but that was really confusing to me because now I don't even know who I am. Like so many lies and just so much dishonesty that I don't even know what the truth is.
Hmm.
Like what's underneath it all. And that's a really confusing thing for a kid to be experiencing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I had big feelings of like I have no idea what's going on. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I still do, but it's a little different. The Yeah, I think also we're talking a lot about lying or being dishonest to other people, but I think a big part of it now for us, because hopefully, we're not doing that as much anymore, if at all,
Hmm.
which I'm thankful for. But uh, now it's like, how are we being dishonest to ourselves, and how are we being too honest too, which I want to hit also, like
Yeah.
the quote that we talked about before, the quote that I've been kind of in a little bit of a mantra on recently is or for a while is honesty without compassion is brutality. So, and that can be outward or inward, how you say things and how, there's a lot of ways to say things to others and to yourself, with compassion and while also being honest, and also um, like giving yourself grace too, you know, like where's the line on saying something to someone or saying something to yourself where it's like that really just hurt that person,
Mm.
or that really just hurts me. If I woke up I got up at what, like 9:30 or something. Like you could say like a brutal honest thing would be like, "Oh, you're lazy." It's like get up early, get up at fucking, you know what I mean? Like that's not compassionate honesty.
Hmm.
What do you think about that quote?
No, I mean, I'd like to touch on too what you're talking about with being honest with ourselves. Like that's a tough topic because I am working on being honest to others. And in this program, that's like one of the focuses, right? And it's happening, and over time I'm starting to eliminate all those, like, the little lies that we tell too. Like that's those are, because it's kind of easy to squash out. Not easy, but it's more straightforward to kind of deal with the big ones, but it's the little ones that you said that really will snowball. Um and get bigger and bigger and are more sinister. And that's like kind of how our disease works. Is these little sinister things that kind of undercut us over time.
Yeah, little paper
Right.
cuts, dude.
Yeah. And I think the honesty with self is like a looming issue for me. Still, my default is self-centered fear. That's like homeostasis for me. Like that's where I've been comfortable in my life. So to not comfortable, but at home, that's where I've spent the most time. Headspace is self-centered fear, self-pity, judgment of self. And um being honest with myself is like it's really easy to be honest with myself when I've done something that's like objectively negative,
Hmm.
and I like could tell myself like, yeah, okay, this is the wrong thing. Like you need to correct this, or you did something wrong here, or you need to improve on this, or X, Y, or Z like negative thing. But being positive with myself and like affirming and being honest about like, oh, you did a good job, or like y- you're okay right now, like everything's okay, and you did, y- you're in a good headspace, or you help that person out, or like being honest about doing like something positive to myself is hard because I'm used to beating myself up. And the same goes, like it's like that end of the extreme, and then the other end of the extreme is distorting reality with my interactions with others, like telling myself like, oh, this person doesn't like you, like, or telling myself like, no, that person wronged you. Like that's a really easy thing as well to do. Like I find do you ever like find that like I'm brutal to myself, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what's helped me a lot that my sponsor and others have told me about that, especially not as much maybe for yourself, but I guess it's applicable to both. But when you have feelings or thoughts of someone else and like that person hates me, that person doesn't like me, they're judging me, whatever. Did they say it to you? You know what I mean? Like, did they come up to you and say, I don't like you, or I think this, or I think that, you know? Because our head can be a crazy place, you know, we know that, both of us. Uh,
Mm,
but it's like really, really, really trying to force yourself to like live in the real world, you know, where things are actually happening. Like, did they say that to you? Did they
right.
do that to you? And if you're flipping it to yourself, it's like, uh, did I say that? Did I do that? Am I actually like a lazy piece of shit because I got up at 9? No.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It's not true. So, like really looking at action from others and from yourself can like free you up of that like headspace of like, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
That's helped me a lot to like really look at the reality of the situation and remind myself of that repeatedly, you know, to try to ground myself in like what's actually going on.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's reality checking.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like a huge skill. That's a it's a hard skill for me to work on, like, and I've been pretty candid about it here and with you, like about struggles with OCD, XYZ, and it's a common struggle for a lot of people even if you are not diagnosed with OCD, but like I distort reality in my brain all the time. Like even just today, like, you know, a common like recurring thought for me is that like I'm not close enough with God. Like, and that's a struggle. That's a very particular struggle with OCD. We could go down a whole rabbit hole about it, but um, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And telling myself that like God doesn't love me
Mm.
and that I haven't like done enough or I've done the wrong thing, or and a lot of obsessions too come from like numbers for me, and it's like I'm chuckling because saying it out loud is funny to me, but it's a really real thing in my head. Um, so I can tell myself, like, I could get on my knees and pray, which I did today and I do every day, but I could go on and listen to some spiritual type of music and read some spiritual type of readings and really kind of connect and do some breath work and still kind of feel like I'm connecting with my higher power. And then like something trivial will happen, or I won't, I'll get latched on to something, like, and I will convince myself that I've I haven't done enough to earn, God's love. And that, fill in the blank on what it is. Like it could be that this person doesn't like me and I'm convinced of it. Like, or I'm my boss doesn't like me, or I'm gonna get fired, or my girlfriend, like whatever it is, like, something is happening. Reality checking is like, because when those things start to happen, like, I don't know if this happens to you, but the pace of my thoughts picks up.
Mm.
Like everything is so fast. Like it's almost like the lie is gaining ground, right? Like it's gaining momentum and leverage. And so it speeds up and it recycles and it goes, you know what I mean?
Feel it in your
And
chest?
yeah, I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my whole body, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and slowing it down is part of that reality check. Like, I like, all right, I have to slow my body down, slow my brain down, and observe, like, okay, Andrew, let me ask you some simple questions. Like I have to ask myself in my head, like, okay, do you love God? Yes. Did you pray today? Yes. Did you make a sincere effort to connect? Yes. Okay. Well, those are the only concrete things that I can see.
Yeah, but actually, I was talking to a therapist at work. I'm gonna start using and uh, do you need to have a sincere connection?
No,
Like, and what is a sincere connection, if you don't mind?
it, it's a lie that I tell myself.
Okay, you feel me? Like, uh, I understand, and I've been there too. Um, I think the suggestion I've gotten on the higher power and praying and stuff like that too is like it's it's your higher power. You feel me? Like the reading today that when we were talking about what should we talk about, I was just looking at it. It's
Mm,
literally about like you create your higher power. The classic joke is like the chair in the corner. If that's what you want it to be, that's what it can be, you know? And like, uh, have you always been taken care of in one way or
yeah.
another? Have you always been provided for? Like that's love. That's been it has been there the whole time, you know? And like, just reminding yourself too, like, and I have to do this also, like, uh, every experience that you have from like going and getting the coffee today to whatever you do after this, for me, like, I'm gonna try to take Tucker on a walk. You feel me? If Tucker like steps on a nail or something, that'd be fucked up, right? But it's also that's a fuck. I hope that doesn't happen, Tucker. But if I step on a nail, let's put me in there. It's like every experience, there's growth on the other side, whether it makes sense or not, in the moment. And I think it's trying to take the pressure off of yourself for it to look a certain way. You know,
Yep.
if it's like a control piece, and I think there's a big control piece for OCD, I would imagine.
That's what it all is.
Yeah,
That's where it's
yeah,
based.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, releasing that control, and you've talked with me a lot about it, and I admire you, like, recovering and working through that openly, and like
Mm,
you're I think you're doing amazing. You know what I mean? And like you reach out to me and to others for affirmation, which is dope, and I know that's hard too, which is dope. Like that's you actively trying to combat it. You feel me? And when you mix in the element of you being in recovery too, uh, uh, do you mind me sharing the stuff on like the like thinking that you drank or whatever? Because
no,
I've had
bro.
I've had that too. Like I shared with you when I was in, I've even had times, bro. So this lady at work that I worked with got me this vitamin D, super vitamin D supplement. And I took it. I think I told you about this. I took a
Mm-hmm.
shot of it. I loved it, bro. I was like, that shit is fire. And I read it. It was like super good for you, yada, yada, yada. So I bought 4 bottles after taking one shot. This is some real addict stuff here. Okay.
Mm.
Uh, Bought 4 bottles. They came over. It's like one shot a day. The next day I take another one and I was like, it's like, it felt like a shot. Like I felt like a whoo after I took it. And then I was like, that kind of, after the second day that I had it, for the 4 bottles came, I door dashed them. I don't door dash anything from the grocery, bro. But I door dashed them straight to my house, got 4 bottles. And then I read the back and it had like a percentage of alcohol in like kind of high, bro, like 3 to 4% in a bottle or something.
Oh.
Yeah. And I like fully, and this is like last year. I was like, I just relapsed. I panicked. I went to the sink and I had 4 bottles, poured it down, you know, was fully freaking out. Called my sponsor and he was like, did you buy it knowing that there was alcohol in there? And I was like, no, like, walked me all the way through. Like, you didn't do it with intention. It's not like you bought a beer, stuff like that. It's a percentage, whatever. Like, yes, there's alcohol in it. And it was okay. And I worked it out, but it was like, uh, that was terrifying, bro. We talked about like the fear too, and like thinking that I drank or thinking that I relapsed or thinking that, and I have to talk to someone else, you know, same as you. I have to talk to someone else. Someone else I need the people in the program that make it are the ones that allow themselves to be reassured. That's like
Mm.
one of the most important things I've ever heard. And that's like one of the OGs at my home group. I never met him. He passed away, but that's what he said. The people in the program that allow themselves to be reassured make it.
Yeah,
Like just a straight bar, you
that
know?
is.
And I needed
That
to be
is.
reassured in that moment. And uh but
Dude,
it's
I,
scary.
I love that you shared that. Like, I don't actually think you've ever told me that
Yeah.
story. And I mean, that's where I was like, and this is again getting into the lies we tell ourselves, right? And the dishonesty and the distortion is, I had I've had instances where I've been around weed recently
Hmm.
and they were really hard for me. And I, especially with some of the distortion that comes into some of the OCD kind of flare ups that I've had, like I didn't know what was happening. Like I questioned my reality and my intentions a lot. Like, oh my God, like, you know, am I like, did I smoke? Did I do this? Did I do that? And really like talking to you, talking to my sponsor, like reaching out to the people that can reassure me. That was that's what kept me sane.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, with almost anything like that comes up when we're helping each other in recovery is reality checking and getting reassurance on all of it. Um, all the things that come up, like the doubts about relationships or the doubts about the job or the career or school or family life, everything that's coming up. Like I have doubts and I will tell myself lies about. Like I have serious imposter syndrome about the job I'm in and about the degree that I'm getting. And like, am I smart enough to do this? Like, I'm 2 years into it and I'm still like, I don't think I can do this. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm qualified to be doing this. Like,
Yeah.
and that's dishonesty in like a kind of a more subtle, sinister form. You
It
know what I
is.
mean? Because if I can distort, and this is an interesting connection, I think, like if I can distort my reality, like and tell myself lies, then it makes it easier for me to loop other people in.
Yeah.
Like if I'm okay with like telling myself a lie, then I'm like that barrier to me telling someone else a lie and to kind of start that snowball, that barrier is a lot lower, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's definitely true. And the piece of it too, the imposter syndrome thing, being dishonest, along with the reassurance. I have that too, like working in recovery, still working in recovery. And sometimes I like make a joke to coworkers, like, I don't even know what I do here. Yes, you do. And yes, I do. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's like am I even helping? And then I have clients and staff or whatever that say like, thank you, you're doing really good. I really appreciate you. I have a connection with you. And I have to hear it over and over and over again. And even still, it's like weird to accept that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which like at the bottom of like the honesty for ourselves too becomes like turns into like a self-love. Do I love myself? Will I give myself grace? Am I open to hearing reinforcement, or am I open to really hearing uh 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 like that I'm doing well or that I'm doing a good job,
Positive
or yeah,
affirmations,
positive
bro.
affirmations. Yeah. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking a lot about in the groups, like looking in the mirror and saying, I love you. And then I asked them to try that, and then, um, asked myself to try it. And I do it like not every day, but I do it. And like asking like, how does that feel? What comes up when you try to do that? Were you able to do it? And why was it hard? Stuff like that.
Mm.
Feel like how good does it feel to be honest now? You know what I mean? Like especially in those instances when you could lie, you know. You could lie and it could be all good. Like I've had experiences, especially when I'm like I did something wrong, or I'm late, like being late for work, like I could make up a lie, or being sick or whatever, and just being like, "Hey, you know, I'm late." There's no excuse either. It's kind of like our amends thing. Like I did something wrong. How can I help? Same with being honest. Like this is what happened,
Yeah.
and like that you have to build it, just like we had to like tear down the inventory and like what we were before getting into recovery. Now we're rebuilding, becoming like good people. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So the more positive experiences with honesty that you have, the more likely you're going to do it, which has been my experience. um but I do feel freer when I'm like being honest. I feel clearer too.
It's the harder thing in the moment. Like it's the harder thing. And it's not, again, this is like you said, like it happens over time and it gets easier over time and it becomes like, but my instinct is still to protect myself, protect my image. So like being radically honest about what I'm going through, or with somebody, even about things that I like would be much easier to lie about, like you said, like being late or missing something or whatever it may be. Like that's the easier thing, but it always hurts on the back end. Like especially like you said earlier, now being dishonest like really screws with me because I'm all here. Like I'm not getting drunk or high. Like there's no mask. There's no numbing of feelings. It's all
Yeah.
I have to sit with it. So when I'm not honest, that's an unbearable feeling. Like, and it really is. We're not psychopaths. Like
Yeah.
we're not. We were people who were able to my ideas that I compartmentalized very well and I justified, and that allowed me to like have this really crappy, you know, closet in my brain that was full of shit,
Hmm.
and it overflowed eventually, but I just kept adding rooms to it until really my whole brain was taken over by it. But um now the hard thing is to be honest, but over time, like you said, you know, because I'm scared of, again, my fear is rejection.
Mm,
So I'm scared if I'm honest about something that may not be so pleasant, then I'm going to get rejected
I agree.
and I'm not going to get the love that I so desperately crave.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens, right?
Yeah. No, it's not always. And I think if you ask someone else for their advice in the program before doing something, about being honest with someone else, or about checking yourself, that helps a lot too because I've been thinking about this a lot, specifically for the last like month or so. Like I'm learning to trust historically untrustworthy person in myself. I have 7 years sober, but uh, I can't really tell you how long I felt like I've been able to trust myself.
Mm.
Only in like the last maybe 2 years have I felt like, you know, I can trust myself. Um, and it's not 100%, you know? So it's like when I want to make a decision or I think that this is the right way to do something, I have to ask other people too. But it's kind
Yep.
of like a trip. It's like I feel like in our society there's a lot of pushing like trust your gut, like follow your self will, stuff like that. People outside of the program, I mean. And then in our program, it's more like ask for suggestions, and you'll get a lot of different suggestions too. So I've kind of been looking at like, damn, I get a lot of suggestions and they don't all line up. And they definitely don't all line up with my suggestion for myself. You know what I mean? So which one do I trust or which one do I follow? Um, so I guess like blending all of that together into a place where I'm starting to feel like I- have had experience of trusting myself after talking with others, and also knowing that everything really works out regardless, whichever way you choose to go.
Mm.
But I've just found it interesting that a phrase I've been saying is like, "Oh, I'm having trouble trusting a historically untrustworthy person," which is myself, But is that like really true or what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's I'm two ways about it. I don't know which one is the right way. I'm like on the one hand, I think our the program that we're in, we want to take suggestions from people,
yeah,
right? Like that's one of the pillars of what we do is we take suggestions and they're just that suggestions. We can use what we like, what we think will work, or we can try different things and we can go back to the drawing board and rethink the whole thing. But this is where it's like it's interesting for me is right, like in treatment for my, for OCD, they really teach like it's okay to get affirmation from reaffirming from other people, like in the beginning of the treatment, in the beginning of your therapy and whatever. But over time, we want to get to a point where we trust ourselves,
build it from within. Yeah,
right? And we can reaffirm for ourselves that this is reality, this is true,
right.
and this other thing is not. It's our disease talking. It's so similar to alcoholism in that like there's a voice, like not like, oh, I hear voices, but there is a voice in our head that's telling us one of them is the alcoholic voice for me that's, trying to sneakily get me back drinking and drugging. And then there's this other voice that's like really, really intent on getting me to stay locked into these compulsions and
Yeah,
obsessions.
yeah,
And it's a trip. Which one do I trust? Right. And um that's where I think it's a blend of like the program and then a muscle inside of us. Like it's
mm,
like working a muscle. Like I have to reality check myself with others, but then over time I have to be comfortable reality checking with myself. And that's not an ego thing so much as like a survival thing, right? Like I can't be double checking everything with somebody else. Like if I'm going to stay sober realistically, like I have, and I'm not there yet for sure. Like I don't really feel like I trust myself at this like extent, but
mhm.
if I'm going to stay sober and continue to develop my recovery, I have to get to a place where I trust what I'm doing and trust my thoughts and can reality check myself and keep moving with the like confidence that what I've decided upon for that small decision is going to be the next right thing for me at that time.
Hmm.
And that's a wicked hard thing to do, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. I completely agree with that. I like that. I like everything that you just said, especially building the muscle and building it from within and initially seeking affirmation from others. I mean, that's like our program too. A lot of it is like getting a lot of support and feedback throughout your recovery, obviously. But we are trying to build ourselves to a place where it's like that's why there's sponsors. There's people that have completed the program or not completed the program, completed the steps. I've been in the program for a while and can like pass that on because not that they don't need to, call someone every day and all that stuff anymore, but like that they can, we're trying to be able to stand up on our own 2 feet with our higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've learned how to do that more and more in the program. I think it is interesting though, the the honesty piece. And a lot of it too, I feel like comes to my sponsor really, I love him so much, kind of like really always does try to turn things back to the higher power and asking my higher power, questions that I'm struggling with. You know, uh, is this the right job for me? Am I in the right thing right now? Like, most of the time I hear yes back, because everyone has that like little voice or whatever, and however faint or not faint or loud it is, there's one in there that I feel like kind of is like your main ticker.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like trying to grow that to a point where it's obviously the one that you're listening to. It's kind of like a trippy, weird thing, but um, yeah,
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the muscle, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and it's hard to trust that voice initially
Yeah,
because it was almost it was certainly a lot quieter when we were using and
yeah,
drinking
yeah,
was almost unused. We listened to that part of us that was the alcoholic in active use, and that was a completely different set of instructions
yeah,
like that we were getting and a
yeah,
completely different set of feedback that we were getting. So no, and I do want to just, kind of talk a little bit too about like what it means. And this is hard both for, you know, when we're honest and we're speaking to ourselves, but also like for, you know, talking to others and dealing with others. Like, what is the line? Not the line, but, it's like it goes back to the quote that you kind of talked about, honesty without compassion is brutality. Where do we draw the line, right? Like, what is appropriate to be honest about? How do we be gentle? Because I'm like, I'm my initial thought when kind of learning some of the philosophies in the program and of a recovery broadly, like, okay, I just need to be honest about everything now all the time. Like, so I'll just tell like, all right, I'm gonna tell it like it is for everything without really like mindfully exploring what that means and how that might affect people.
yeah,
Like the right, like the truth or the reality of the situation or certain details, like those can be damaging. Um, and I think that honesty is like a really nuanced thing for a person who's experienced in recovery. It's not like a black and white, like, all right, you just tell, everyone everything whenever, whatever happens, whenever they ask you. But I don't really know where the line is. Like it's a hard thing to negotiate with.
yeah. Something I try to do is meet people where they're at, uh, and try to put myself in their perspective too, you know,
Mm.
like uh if I was them, how would I perceive me saying like, I think you're out of shape? That might be honest, you feel me? But that's not nice, you know? And continuing to try to be a loving, safe place for others, you know. Uh, do I think that this person is in a spot to hear this honesty? Also, is this like me being helpful or is this me being hurtful? You know, like weighing the
Hmm.
pros and cons, and we start to really be able to know the difference between those two. You know, also, I feel like our inventory process too allows us to give grace to ourselves and to others. So when it comes on being honest, like uh, it becomes more clear. I feel like it becomes more clear.
Mm.
Um, just like if you love and care about other people, you might not say something that's like malicious, even if it's honest. Like that's like like we were saying, the honesty without compassion is brutality. Like just like just speaking with compassion for others in general, I think is the safer route
Mm.
always, you know. And it's not like uh and it's like what kind of relationship do you have with that person? Like do you barely know them? Do you really know them? Because like some of your close friends you might be able to speak more directly with depending on the situation. You know, we learn how to decipher that over time, I think. And there's like an intuition there about that. And you know, if you really care about someone, I don't think you would at this point try to hurt them with honesty.
Right.
I
Right.
hope not. Yeah.
And
I hope I
it's
wouldn't.
hard. Like weaponizing honesty is such like a weird concept,
It is.
but that can happen. Like accidentally too. Like we might not even because I'm self-centered and I'm like, I gotta clear my conscience here, or I gotta be straight up. Like I might not even realizing that I'm injuring someone else
Yeah.
by doing so. Um, it's right in some of the steps, like unless to do so would injure others, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It makes me think
and
of the amends stuff.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, do we do we tell someone something because it's the right thing to do and it's gonna give that person some clarity and it's gonna help make amends, or are we telling someone something that is gonna be damaging just to clear our own conscience?
Right. Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge thing. That's why, you know, my sponsor told me to always call him about amends beforehand, you know, never
Mm.
to just be like, I hurt this person. I got it, you know, because no, I don't. Because there's been a couple where, like, what was it? What the amends was, you know, living amends can feel like a get out of jail free card to an extent, but also I think that there's points where like it's important, like what you're saying. Like my sponsor, whenever I've done a living amends, kind of walks me through like you know, he'll think about it, and even sometimes he's called his sponsor, and they'll talk about it, like have hold the grand council on Mitch's amends, and then come down with the final decision or final suggestion. And you know, like if it's a living amends, it's like how did that make you feel when you did that? And usually it's like bad, upset, resentful towards myself. Okay. Do you want to do that to someone or something again? No. You know, it's like, okay, well, don't. You know what I mean? And that's like use living amends is used that way. If the person or place or thing that you hurt, you know, if you would go to them and they don't even, or they're not even aware of it, and it's just like, get this out of my conscious so I'm good. And here, you can have it, you know? That's like self-will, kind of malicious. It's honest.
Hmm.
It is honest, but it's like so that gets a little more intricate there, I feel. But
That's why honesty is such a kind of a weird topic, right?
yeah,
Because I thought it was black and white when I got clean, but it's
yeah,
definitely not.
no. That's
It's
because
definitely,
all we see is black and white or
yeah,
for the
everything.
beginning.
Even now, even now,
Yeah.
everything for me is still that way
I feel
sometimes.
like
But
I'm starting to throw some paint on the board too.
I can see that. I can see that starting to
Yeah.
happen. It's a it's a weird it's an overwhelming world once we start to realize that all these things have gray areas,
Yeah.
but it's also freeing in some way. Like it doesn't have to all be one way.
Right.
And it doesn't have to all be the other way either. There's some give and take. Um, I mean, I'm and on the topic of amends too, like as we kind of wrap up, like I did that. Like I made an amends without talking to my sponsor, and I got honest about some things like to a person that I care about a lot. And it was not well received, clearly. Like when I look back, it's like clearly it wouldn't have been well received.
Yeah.
And it injured this person.
Hmm.
And it was like a blindside hit. Like it's like you said, like I just like gave it to them, like, here you go. Like, good luck with this. I'm clean now.
Yeah.
Like, and then that trying to work through that and maintain some sort of, friendship relationship with that person afterwards was incredibly hard
Yeah.
because now, oh, like I've brought this kind of tornado of shit into their lives.
Right.
Like, and that's what an instance where it's, and it getting, oh, is it a lie of omission? Is it a this? Is it a that? Are you protecting your ego? No, like talking to somebody with more experience than I have, like I would have probably come to the conclusion and gotten the suggestion that no, this is about being compassionate towards the other person,
Hmm.
and I have to swallow my pride and my search for relief and make, in this case, really, honestly, like it's almost harder to make the living amends.
Yeah.
Like it's not a get out of jail free card. It's almost like, no, you have to soak this in your conscience.
Yeah. That's true.
Like and work through it yourself. But I don't know. It's an interesting nuance to honesty.
Yeah.
Like do I and it's like I guess it's like do I want to be honest to the program and the way of life I'm living, or do I just want to have this blanket statement of like full disclosure with people, which is
Yeah.
just not healthy.
Well, I'll hit you with another one of my favorite ones. By the time I'm like 50 or 60, I'm going to be a quote guru. I can tell you
Get
that.
out of a book.
I'm going to be one of those dudes. But it's like, how free do you want to be? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like just straight up. We were talking about that in the meeting 2 weeks ago. How free do you want to be? The program is all there. The book is there. The sponsors are there. The members are there. Everything's written down. You know what I mean? For pretty much every single situation. So, like, how free do you want to be when it comes to amends, inventories, prayer, meditation? All the tools are there. I was just talking to a buddy yesterday. He was like, "How do I find what program I want to do?" Basically, and I was like, "Well, the program gives us all these tools, like prayer, meditation, inventories, going to meetings, calling someone, being of
Mm.
service, all this stuff. That's like a huge table with just like everything on it. And you get to pick and choose which ones work for you. And I advise try all of them, at least once or twice. And then if you like it, fucking throw it on the belt. You feel me? Like, and use that one. And then if your belt stops working, go back to the table, and like pick something else up and maybe exchange it. You know what I mean? Like program building is huge. Everyone's is going to look different. Um, and it changes too, and uh the freedom and the weightlessness is there. I see it when I go to meetings. I see dudes with like 30, 40 years that fucking skip into the meeting, bro. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like they're fucking free as shit. And I go to that meeting and go to meetings like that because I want what they have. And
Yep.
I sit down and I listen to them, and they listen to
Mm.
me because I say something that reminds them of when they were like where I was at, and it's a fucking beautiful circle. So be honest, but with compassion.
No, I was gonna wait for you to finish with something profound, but I was also kind of just reflecting on the fact that this is all comes back to the program we're in, man. Like
Yeah,
that's where I'm learning how to be honest the right way.
yeah,
Like not even like the right way, but the way that is like it aligns with just objectively being a good human.
yeah,
Like, and that's really the only thing that I want to do now is, all right, how do I be a good person? Like, cause that's what I'm learning how to do.
yeah,
Cause I didn't know how to really do that before. I only cared about me.
yeah.
So,
Same.
and I still only care about me really underneath everything.
Well, you know yourself the best, and I know myself the best. But I would say that we're both doing, you know, give ourselves some grace. We're doing fantastic job, you know. So I appreciate you. I'm glad to be back on with you as always. I love you. And we should be proud of ourselves for waking up today.
Yeah, man. Even if it was at 9.
That's right. Uh, yeah, this has been episode 73 on honesty, dishonesty, lying, and yeah, it was dope. I really enjoyed that. That was sick.
Yeah, man. And really glad to have our permanent, guest Tucker with us from
Yeah,
here on out.
yeah.
Very exciting.
We're gonna get a Tucker cam, maybe, if God wills it. All right. Uh,
I
thank you to
love you,
everybody
bro.
listening. Love you too. We shall keep coming back, whether it's in a month from now or next week. All right.